beginning our day, December 11th, 2025. Just had an acupuncture yesterday, and it was incredibly helpful. The pain is much less, and I was really looking forward to it. And yeah, I didn't go for the ibuprofen this morning, which is always a good sign. And I actually was up in time for morning puja, but I decided just to give my body a little bit more of a break, a bit more of a rest. It's always hard for me to, say, miss pujas or do things that I consider not setting a good example or uninspiring. So like driving that buggy up all the time, driving that buggy up and down the hill, I would like to walk, but because I have this back problem. But then sometimes I think, oh, I'm passing this or that guest. They must think, who is this monk driving up and down in this buggy? But, well, I can't explain this to everybody, so I just have to be embarrassed and watch that for myself. No, but we have all these experiences in practice, and as I was doing some sitting and standing in my kuti this morning, I was remembering back over the years, having some practice experiences, and then recollecting some experiences that Luang Por Chah talked about in his own Dhamma talks. And one of those is as a sincere practitioner who is really wanting to go as far as possible in Dhamma and realization into Dhamma. Then Ajahn Chah related an experience when he was probably 8 or 9 vasas or something when it happened, but he was practicing up on a hillside, and there was a village down below, and it was evening time, and he could hear the sounds of a big festival, a party happening in the village, and there was all sorts of people and lights and people enjoying themselves, having fun, and he was sitting way up on this hillside alone. And it was cold season, so it was quite cold, and it started to rain a little bit, and he felt so incredibly lonely and just abandoned, like an orphan, no friends, no family. And in that moment, it started raining, and then he got even colder, and he just started sobbing. And he talks about this experience of practice that he had, and those types of experiences are, I think, quite important in the practice. And and that was part of Ajahn Chah's path of practice, was to deal with loneliness and feeling dejected and kind of cast aside. And that is the path of a practitioner, is the ones that we're the ones that actually decide to not take a partner, and monk means the one who walks alone. So that's it's a different type of lifestyle, it's a different type of life, and not everybody can do it. It takes great steadfastness and great courage, actually, to do something like this. And I was also recollecting an experience I had at Pujamgam, which was kind of similar to that Luang Por Chah experience, but for myself, I can't compare myself to Luang Por Chah in terms of purity and sila, but I did have an experience similar to that in terms of feeling dejected. And I had just dislocated my shoulder, and my arm was in a sling, and Luang Por Pasano was going to be visiting Pujamgam. And so it was going to be Patimokkha Day, but there was only going to be me, and he was going to come with one attendant monk. And so it was just going to be 3 of us, which meant we didn't have to chant a Patimokkha. But then at the last minute, another senior monk decided to join in, so there's going to be 4 of us, which would mean we would have to have a Patimokkha. And I was the Patimokkha chanter. So I was arm in a sling, I was in pain, and I was trying to clean up the monastery for my teacher, because I don't want the monastery to be in a bad state when my teacher arrives. And I was like sweeping around with one arm, and was getting quite sore and feeling very tired and exhausted and quite low. And then this senior monk showed up with Luang Por Pasano, so there was 4 of us, so I had to do Patimokkha, but I didn't have it well practiced, didn't have it well memorized. So that evening, I tried to chant the Patimokkha, and the senior monk who spontaneously came with Luang Por was checking, and I wasn't able to do the Patimokkha. I got through certain parts of it, and then I thought, I can't. I was in too much pain. I was too tired. I didn't have it well practiced, and I wasn't able to do it. And then so I had to read. I had to just read from the Patimokkha book, which was quite embarrassing. And then right afterwards, that particular senior monk, who was he had such a personality that he pulled me aside and he's like, how could you do that in front of your teacher? How could you chant so horribly? And like, he was like really criticizing me. So then I felt even worse. So it was just kind of this cascade of horrible things happening that day. And then I had also given up my kuti for Luangpur. So I was sleeping outside and it was cold season. And I had like one blanket. And so I was like on this little like metal platform outside, kind of like cast aside, sort of cast out into the forest, like cast out into the charnel ground. And I was just like huddled up in a fetal position, shivering, and I just like started sobbing. Just so much, it was a perfect storm for dukkha. So plus I was thinking, why me? Why is this happening to me? And there was this really strong sense of self coming up. But then the next day, Luangpur sensed that something was going on, and he was kind of trying to console me. And he was telling me it was okay. But yeah, it was. I actually, after that, I remembered that Luangpur Cha experience, and that helped me to feel better. But it's experiences like that do push us into the maturation of Dhamma practice that wouldn't happen otherwise. It's very important to have those experiences, and then to not give up. Not to give up when we do have those experiences is extremely important. So the only real failure is when we give up, not when we make mistakes per se, which are small failures, but the big failure is if we just give up. And if we just keep going, and if we persevere, then we end up getting closer to Dhamma. So I'll leave that for reflection.